Hello, welcome to our Flow and Restore yoga practice. My name is Michelle Chua, and you'll want to have quite a few props, whatever you have that's like what's behind me, a bolster, two blocks, a blanket, and a strap, or any other alternatives to that. And let's start in any comfortable way to sit. You may like to prop your pelvis up on any of your props to just help your spine lengthen upright while you relax your hips. Hmm. So I have been highlighting throughout this week's classes the Yoga Sutras practice called Pradipaksha Bhavanam, which is Sanskrit for when a negative thought arises to think of the opposite. Not so easy, especially if it's a repeated negative thought. This practice is within the umbrella practice of the very first of the 8 limbs of yoga called ahimsa, which is Sanskrit for non-harm. And so it has a lot to do with the inner practice of yoga. One of the teachers that I follow, Tara Brach, who is a mindfulness teacher and psychologist, has taught me a lot about how to integrate yoga into our daily lives, especially with inner work, working with our mind and our emotional intelligence. And she wrote this article that I have been citing pieces of throughout the week. And so today is our last Zoom class for the week. So you get the recap as well as the third main point. So to preface this article, which is called How to Transform Negativity into Kindness, 3 ways, she talks about how we as humans have, as part of our brain, a negativity bias, which means that we tend to look out for danger and what could go wrong because it's a survival mechanism. Now, however, if that is our default constantly, then you can imagine how stressful our minds, our nervous systems are when they don't need to be stressed. And so she writes that in our daily lives, while we also have the survival apparatus of negativity bias, we also have a more evolved part of our brain that contributes to feelings of connection, empathy, and well-being. And so how can we decondition the negativity bias? How do we shift from the limbic reactivity to attend and befriend? So here are the 3 ways, and I'm just going to recap the first 2 and go further into the third. The first was to look for vulnerability. Now, when we're absorbing self-criticism, when the negative self-talk is at play and we're blaming ourselves, it's the practice of looking underneath the surface to see what is vulnerable within us that blame is stemming from. And so it opens us up to self-compassion. Now, when we're finding unpleasant behaviors from others, it's also helpful to look at what's underneath their surface and try to think of what is vulnerable within them that is being triggered right now. And if we understand that in some way they might be suffering and that's where they're acting from, then it naturally opens our ability to be compassionate. Now, the second way to transform negativity into kindness, according to Tara Brach, is by actively expressing compassion. And she talks about how it brings love to another level when we can voice the words, I love you. And so similarly, it brings compassion to another level. When we can voice to ourselves, if it's self-compassion, or to another being, that I care about you. And I wish for you to feel better or comfort. So practicing actually vocalizing compassion to another being or to yourself. Okay, so now I'm going to elaborate on the third way, which is to include those who seem different. She writes, part of our negativity bias and the cause of much racial, religious, and other domains of violence is we assume potential danger, something wrong associated with those who are different. A practice that evolves us and our larger society toward inclusive loving is intentionally deepening our relationships with others of difference. When we communicate on purpose, trying to understand, it opens us to the larger truth of our interconnectedness. While our brain has a flight, fight, freeze mechanism, it also has a compassion network, which includes mirror neurons that allow us to register what it's like for another. We can sense that others want to feel loved and loving, safe and happy. When we feel that connection, it enables us to act on behalf of each other, the relationship, or larger community. But unless we purposefully take time to pause and listen to others of difference, we won't automatically engage that part of our brain. To have these heart awakening dialogues, we need to intentionally create safe containers. In the same way we train on the cushion, meditating, we can train in conscious communication with each other and gradually widen the circles to connect with those who may be more notably of difference. There are many effective practices such as insight dialogue, nonviolent communication, and the circles of reconciliation, which offer formal structures for communicating. Importantly, we need to practice in our close relationships. A couple of times a week, my husband and I meditate together and have a period of silence where we reflect on inquiries such as, what are you grateful for right now? And what is difficult for you right now? We also ask, is there anything between us that's getting in the way of an open, loving flow? The other person listens with a kind, accepting presence, and we each get to name what we're experiencing. What about those who aren't willing to engage in conversation with us? Fortunately, our capacity to feel connection is not hitched to their capacity to connect to us. Of course, it's easier to feel it when there's mutuality, but we can offer kindness from our hearts regardless. It's possible to do this in every situation with every person we meet. I have a morning prayer that's really simple. Teach me about kindness. When I move through the day with that informing me, the moments become filled with presence, tenderness, and aliveness, even when I encounter challenging people, myself included. It's natural that in the face of hurt, injustice, and deception, we feel fear, hatred, and anger. But the negativity bias can lock us into being at war with ourselves and others. It's important that we pause, be with ourselves and others and each other, and open fully to the feelings that arise. When we honor those feelings, we can get beneath them, down to our human vulnerability and the care that's really our essence. It then becomes possible to respond to our world aligned with our hearts. I invite you to just take a moment to digest that and notice how this article strikes you. What are you sensing in your physical body right now? What are you sensing in your breath? And what is the state of your nervous system as you can feel your breathing as it is? How are you feeling this moment mentally and emotionally? And let's begin to slow the breath down, letting out a few breaths through your mouth. Taking your time to breathe in a little deeper each new breath. And maybe even vocalizing a sigh through the mouth a few times. As you continue to deepen your breath, I invite you to think of something in your life that you feel appreciation for. And so it's from a full heart that we come to our intention, letting yourself clarify what you want to choose. What do you choose to focus your energy on throughout this practice and even afterwards? Maybe it's the practice of compassion, beginning with extending compassion to yourself and to your body. After setting your intention, as we remember that we are all interbeing, as Thich Nhat Hanh says, we cannot not affect each other directly or indirectly. And so with that in mind, I invite you to choose someone that you would like to intentionally extend loving kindness to through your practice today. And together, let's open the practice, joining our voices to connect with our Mother Earth, chanting Om 3 times. Let in a deep breath. Om. 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 And let's begin to balance the breath both in and out together, closing the lips and creating a gentle whispering sound by softly narrowing the back of your throat. This is a practice in yoga called Ujjayi Pranayama, which means victorious breathing. It's a way to regulate your energy to calm, focus, and balance. So breathing in through the nose, breathing out through the nose. Establish a slow, smooth rhythm that you can listen to. So the sound also serves as an anchor for your mind, helping you to be present by listening to the breath, which is only happening in the present. As you continue to listen to it, please start to make your way into our first of several inversions today, downward facing dog. Now, one way to give yourself a little boost if you have tight hamstrings or lower back is to place your hands on 2 blocks at their lowest height, just like this. Separating your wrists, shoulders width apart, and pressing even the heels of the palms against the top back edges of the blocks to get a little more traction to lengthen the spine. And spend the first few breaths moving any way your body might need to loosen up. You could warm up the backs of your legs by pedaling your feet slowly to the pace of your breath. You could also stretch the sides of your torso and outer hips by swiveling your hips side to side. Maybe even shake your head a few times. Nod your head a few times to help loosen your neck. Now, with your hands flat on the ground, stretch your thumbs wide towards each other and feel how you are relating or connecting to the earth below. Since we're going to be practicing different inversions, including forward folds, flipping our perspective upside down, we're going to be putting weight on other parts of the body, not just our feet, to carry our weight. So notice how you are carrying your weight on your hands. Can you press the ground away with your hands to actively draw energy up? So there's a reciprocity in the energy. There's a rooting down and a rising up as you draw your shoulders and hips towards the back of your mat and towards the sky. Start to find stillness as you even steady your gaze listening to one more cycle of breath in Adho Mukha Svanasana. Then walk to the front of your mat, entering a standing forward fold. Separate your feet at least hips width apart, parallel to each other, and bend your knees generously so that you can really just relax the neck and unwind the spine while shifting your weight forward. Choose to either hold opposite elbows and sway the spine, shake the head, or clasp your hands behind your lower back, hugging the heels of your palms together, or holding a strap between the hands as you stretch the arms further and further away from your lower back to open your chest. As you let your head hang loose, lift the shoulders away from your head to create space in your neck. Listen to a couple more deep breaths in standing forward fold or Uttanasana. Now let your arms hang loose too. Bend the knees even more and feel the rootedness of your legs while you inhale to slowly roll up like you're stacking one vertebra at a time and lifting your head last. As you arrive towards the top, circle your shoulders forward and up, then exhale them back and down. Spread your toes on the earth and root down firmly through the four corners of each foot, lifting energy up your legs, up your spine, as you join your palms in prayer at your heart center, connecting to the energy you are choosing to strengthen by focusing on that intention you set. As we move to the breath, offering gratitude to the sun, with sun salutation C, Surya Namaskar C. Breathing in, sweep your arms forward and overhead, rolling your shoulders back and down, tilt your heart up. As you breathe out, feel free to bend the knees, bow over your legs with a long spine. Plant your fingertips on the ground. Inhale, step your left knee behind you to a kneeling lunge and look up. As you hold your breath, step to plank. Exhale, lower your knees, then chest, then chin, Ashtangasana. Inhale, slither forward into a gentle cobra, drawing your shoulders back and down. Exhale, lift your hips back into downward facing dog. Inhale, step your left foot beside your left thumb, lower your right knee and gaze up. Exhale, step your right foot forward and fold. Press down to your feet. Inhale, sweep your arms forward and overhead, coiling your chest up. Urdhva Hastasana. Exhale, join your palms together at your heart center. Second side, inhale, sweep your arms overhead, look up. Exhale, bow forward. Plant your fingertips on the ground. Inhale, step your right knee back. Kneeling lunge, look up. As you hold your breath, step to plank. Exhale, lower your knees, then chest, then chin. Inhale, slither forward into cobra. Exhale, draw your hips back into downward facing dog. Inhale, step your right foot beside your right thumb. Lower your left knee and gaze up. Exhale, step your left foot forward and fold. Rooting down, inhale, rise. Exhale, recenter your palms in prayer. Let's move into sun salutation A as we continue to warm up. Inhale again, sweep your arms overhead and coil your chest up. Exhale, bow forward. This time, press your fingertips on your shins, 2 blocks or the ground, and inhale, lengthen your spine forward to half forward fold. Carefully step to plank, legs straight or knees down. As you firm in the belly, exhale, glide forward and graze your elbows by your ribs through Chaturanga Dandasana. Then inhale to cobra or upward facing dog. Exhale to downward facing dog. Now let your body be still for 2 cycles of breath. Even letting the eyes be still. These are ways we can cultivate mental focus. When you've emptied the second breath, walk or lightly jump to the front of your mat, forward fold. Press with your hands. Inhale, lengthen to half forward fold. Exhale, fold. Press with your feet. Inhale, rise all the way to Urdhva Hastasana. Exhale, join your hands in Padasana. Let's continue one more. Inhale, Urdhva Hastasana. Exhale, fold Uttanasana. Inhale, press to lengthen Ardha Uttanasana. Either step to plank or lightly jump to Chaturanga if you normally practice that. Take it through your vinyasa at your own pace of breath. In downward dog, once again, I invite you to pause, slow down, and rebalance your breathing. 2 cycles of breath. Then empty the breath before you walk or jump into a forward fold. Inhale, lengthen to Ardha Uttanasana, half forward fold. Exhale, Uttanasana, forward fold. Rooting down, inhale, rise into a standing, gentle back bend. Exhale your hands in prayer. And just pause for a couple of breaths. What do you notice internally about your body, your energy, your breathing, your mind? As you continue to listen to your breath, let's place the blocks on the outer sides of your heels as you step your feet apart, hips distance. Keep your hips equally facing forward and step your left foot back, let's say 2/3 of a full warrior one. So a shorter stance where both feet are entirely on the ground, both legs are straight, and both hips are equally facing forward. Let's come into twisting triangle pose. So keeping your right hand on your right hip to prevent the right hip coming more forward than the left, right? So slightly tack the right hip back to keep the hips evenly facing forward. Root down through the feet, energize your legs, firm in the belly, raise the left arm, and inhale, stretch your spine forward parallel to the floor. Lower your left hand on the left side of your front foot, either on a block or the floor. Draw the right hip back and start to twist at your waistline to the right, breath by breath, raising your right arm up. Twisting triangle pose, Parita Trikonasana. If your balance feels really steady and you want to go deeper into the twist, you could place your left hand on the right side of your front foot. With each in-breath, from down to your feet and stretch your spine further down the midline of your mat. With each out-breath, hug your outer hip still and continue to rotate your rib cage. Last 2 breaths here. Like a backwards cartwheel, extend the right arm towards the back wall and rise all the way up to stand. Keep your legs as they are. And let's prepare for pyramid pose. Bring the arms behind your back to open your chest, either pressing fist to fist, holding opposite forearms or elbows, or palm to palm in reverse prayer, sliding the fingertips up between your shoulder blades. As you root down to your feet, inhale, tilt your chest up. Then lead with your chest as you exhale to fold from your hips, breath by breath, making sure to keep both hips equally facing forward and your throat open by sliding the shoulder blades back. Parshvottanasana, pyramid pose. Press down to your feet, lead with your chest. Inhale to slowly rise. Relax your arms and step your left foot forward. Mountain pose, pause. Just observe your body for a moment. All right, Second side, start with feet hips width apart, then step the right foot back 2/3 of your stance in warrior one. Keep both legs straight, both feet entirely on the ground, both hips squaring forward. Place your left hand on your left outer hip, drawing it back slightly from down to your feet, and inhale, lengthen your spine forward parallel to the floor. Lower the right hand on the right side of your front foot on a block of the ground. Keep your pelvis still and twist to the left, breath by breath, raising your left arm, twisting triangle pose. And if here your balance feels really steady and you want to go further into the twist, you could place the right hand on the left side of your front foot. With each inhale, from down to your feet, and stretch your spine further down the midline of your mat. With each exhale, hug your outer hip still and continue to rotate your rib cage to the left. Parita Trikonasana. Last 2 deep breaths. Like a backwards cartwheel, reach the left hand towards the rear wall. Rise up to stand. Keep your legs as they are. Let's prepare for pyramid pose. Bring your arms behind your back, either fist to fist, or hold the other forearm or elbow on top, or reverse prayer. Press down to your feet, firm in the belly, and inhale, tilt your chest up. Keep your throat open and exhale, hinge from your hips little by little. Slightly tacking your left hip back. Soften the shoulders away from your neck. Press down to your feet. Inhale to slowly rise. From here, keep your feet apart and pivot your feet to face the wide width of your mat to your right. You might even widen your stance. Bring your hands to your hips. Roll your shoulders back as you inhale to look up. Then shift your weight forward and glide your pelvis forward so that it's lined up with your ankles rather than behind your ankles. And hinge from your hips with the feeling of a flat back. So if needed, bend your knees to prevent rounding your shoulders or back. Lower your fingertips on blocks or the floor. Press down with your hands. And inhale, extend your heart through your upper arms. Keep stretching your spine as you continue to fold. Now, here are some options you could choose from. You could walk your hands back on the ground or blocks, bending the elbows towards the wall. You're seeing upside down. For those of you that practice tripod headstand, that can be here. Some of you might choose to clasp your big toes with your index and middle fingers. And by bending your elbows apart, gently pull yourself deeper into the fold. As you relax the neck, lift the shoulders away from it. Some of you might choose to place one hand down, front and center, opposite arm to the sky to twist for a few breaths on each side. So choose your version of inversion here in Prasarita Padottanasana for the next 5 to 10 deep breaths. So the focus on inversions parallels our philosophical practice of transmuting negative thoughts into positive ones. And going upside down is literally one way to flip our perspective. And it also is a way that can help to shift your mood or your energy. For example, if you're feeling lethargic in the afternoon and instead of reaching for another cup of coffee, you could come into a forward fold and just get the blood flowing in the opposite direction and create a natural stimulation. In turn, if you're feeling really stressed, a gentle forward fold can be cooling and calming, literally turning your attention inward towards yourself. So with feet on the ground, take your time to come up halfway again and pause for a couple of breaths. Walk your hands towards the front of your mat and pivot to face the front in a lunge so that your left knee is bending above your left ankle. Let's come into single pigeon pose here, which will help our hamstrings besides hip opening to get into our next inversion and forward fold. So splay your left knee open to the left and slide your left ankle towards your right hip until you can lower to sit with your right leg straight behind you. If you have any knee issues and this does not feel appropriate in your body, here's another option. You can lie on your back, cross the left ankle as you flex the left foot over your right thigh and take hold of your right leg with both hands. That's called thread the needle. Otherwise, take your version of single pigeon. You could fold forward and rest your forehead on your pillow, your blocks. You could bear hug a pillow. You could spiral the right arm underneath the left bent elbow for a spinal twist, which is also called thread the needle. And if your head does not relax on the floor easily, you can place your head on a prop, such as your pillow or blanket. Relax your right toes and see if there's any adjustment you need to make so that you can surrender in this pose. And we're going to be here for 2 more minutes before we switch sides. Listen to your breath. Let the sound of your breath bring a calm focus to your mind. Listen to one more cycle of breath. And after you finish it, begin to press back into downward facing dog. And I invite you to raise your left leg in downward dog and shake it out or rotate it at the hip just to welcome blood flow towards that hip region we just opened up. When you're ready from downward dog, turn out your right thigh at the hip. Slide your right shin across your mat in front of your pelvis for the second side. If you were on your back for the first side, I invite you to do the same thing with the opposite leg. Stay on your back. So in single pigeon, if you're sitting up, make sure your 2 hips are equally facing forward. Didn't mention this on the first side, but if there's a gap between your right glute and the ground, use any of your props to comfortably fill that gap to keep your alignment safe. Now, How did you practice single pigeon on the first side? See if that's available to explore here while you listen to the cues of your body, letting you know how deep you need to go or how to configure your props. Start to settle into a comfortable stillness and come back to listening to your breathing. 2 more minutes here. One more cycle of breath. And once again, please gently step back into downward facing dog and give your right leg some movement at the hip. Let's meet sitting down with legs in front of you, preparing for a seated forward fold, Paschimottanasana. So as you're sitting this way, if your back tends to round or it's challenging to lengthen the spine upright, grab your folded blanket, your pillow, something comfortable to sit on the front edge of so that you can slightly tilt your pelvis forward. And by slightly engaging the lower belly, you can lift the spine taller. Now, if you tend to round your shoulders when you bow forward, you might find a strap useful by placing it around the balls of your feet like this and giving yourself enough slack as you hold the strap with 2 hands to be able to drop your shoulders behind the ears and down. As you flex your feet, press the insteps of your feet forward to create a slight internal rotation of your thigh bones at the hips, which then in turn creates traction to support your lower spine. So press down to your sitting bones, separate your feet hips distance apart. And as you breathe in, lift your spine from your pelvis, soften your shoulders back and down, open your throat, keep your chest slightly lifted, and then exhale, hinge from your hips just a little bit of your range. Pause here as you breathe in, press the pelvis down some more and stretch the spine a little longer from it. Keep relaxing the shoulders down and only continue to fold forward if you can do so while keeping your throat open, maintaining the integrity of your breath that you can hear and the integrity of your spine by relaxing your shoulders. Now, some of you might be walking your hands closer and closer to your feet. Some of you might be clasping your big toes with your peace fingers. Wherever you are now in your forward fold, Come up halfway of that range as you breathe in and roll the shoulders back and down. Lift your sternum, draw it forward, and then continue to stretch the spine longer as you fold to your degree. About 5 more deep breaths here in Paschimottanasana. Press down to your pelvis. Lead with your chest and inhale to slowly rise up. And release your arms. Just pause for a moment, tuning in to anything you feel. So in Tuesday's yin yoga practice, we practice the restorative posture called legs up the wall. I'm going to offer you some options, whether you have a wall or a bed or a couch that you can put your legs up higher on as you lie flat on your back, or with a block under the sacrum to create a little more lift of the pelvis. Take that, legs up the wall. Or if you don't have a wall or piece of furniture, grab a block. Here's another variation. It's supported shoulder stand by lying on the back, bending your knees, and placing the block under your sacrum and then lifting the legs up. Now, if you normally practice traditional shoulder stand, since we are focusing quite a bit on inversions today, I invite you into Salamba Sharvangasana, just that, in which you might also transition to plow or halasana. So those of you going to traditional shoulder stand, plug your elbows into the ground really close to your side ribs. Use your hands to lift your glutes off the ground. Tilt the chin back, keep the head still, and walk your elbows in closer to the midline of your body, pressing them into the floor as you lift your pelvis as high as possible to stack right above your shoulders. Straighten the legs up to stack your ankles above the hips. Trying to create a long line upside down. And breathe here 5 to 10 breaths. Now it's important in classical shoulder stand to not move your head side to side or flatten the back of your neck on the ground. So you want to keep your chin slightly tilted back to maintain the natural curve in your neck. If you're coming into plow, you can reach the legs overhead and hold your lower back or interlace your fingers with your arms straight on the floor like you might do in bridge pose. When you are ready to come out of plow or traditional shoulder stand, make sure your elbows are grounded as you place your hands on your lower back to very gently and slowly lower your upper back, middle back, then pelvis to the ground. Okay, whatever inversion you are doing, if you are in legs up the wall, get out of it very slowly. Turn over to one side into a fetal position first. You don't want to lift your head up too quickly in any inversion, as that can cause lightheadedness. And let's all meet in happy baby pose with no block under your body. So taking hold of your outer feet, splaying the knees wide, parallel your feet as the soles face the ceiling. And you could rock side to side. You could straighten one leg as you bend the opposite knee, or straighten both legs as you press your tailbone into the floor. Relaxing your shoulders on the ground. Let's bring the hands to your outer thighs and draw your bent knees together, preparing for a supine spinal twist. Now, scooting your pelvis towards the right side of your mat, open your right arm wide on the floor. Ground your right shoulder, and to stretch your neck, you could face that shoulder. Lift your feet and either keep the legs side by side, or if you're wanting a deeper twist, wrap your right leg over the left leg like you would in eagle pose. As the right shoulder stays on the ground, begin to drop your knees slowly to the left. If you're needing more stretch in the lower back, place your left hand on your right outer hip, and as you breathe out, press away your right outer hip to tilt slightly towards the front edge of your mat. Start to unwind onto your back, recenter your pelvis on the mat. Take your time to get into the second side. Scoot your hips towards the left side of your mat and open your left arm wide. Ground your left shoulder. You might face it to stretch your neck. And either leg side by side touching, or wrap the left leg over the right. Slowly dropping your knees towards your right side. Maybe adding the depth of pressing your right hand against your left outer hip. Slowly roll onto your back. Uncross your legs and draw your bent knees into your chest. You might rock in different directions or circle your thighs together and apart. I'm going to invite you into one more pranayama practice, lying down in corpse pose. So take a moment to use any of your props that you might want to use to support your body resting in stillness. For example, for lower back support, you might place a long pillow across the mat underneath the backs of your knees, like this, as you splay your feet wider apart than your hips distance. For grounding support, you might place the weight of a second pillow or a folded blanket over your pelvis and belly, like this, and maybe even over your forearms as you rest the arms down by your sides with your palms face up. You might even place an eye pillow or your strap over your closed eyes to support tuning inward. So take a moment to see if your body needs any adjustments in corpse pose so that you can feel generally symmetrical. Shoulders are dropped back and releasing away from the neck. And whole body feels relaxed to be still. And the breathing practice I'm going to invite you to, which helps to welcome that tend and befriend or rest and digest part of the nervous system, which is the opposite of the fight, flight, freeze, is Durga Pranayama, or three-part breathing. So it entails using your imagination and picturing your torso, which is from your pelvic floor, bottom of the pelvis, all the way up to the top of your neck. Imagine dividing your torso into three cross sections. The first section is from your pelvic floor to your belly button, all the way around. The second is at the middle of your torso, which encompasses most of your rib cage. The third includes your chest, upper back, shoulders, and neck. Three-part breathing goes like this. I'll invite you to breathe in through the nose 1/3 into the lowest section of your torso, then pause. Then another inhale, 1/3 into the middle section, then pause. And then the last inhale, 1/3 to the top section, and holding the breath, consciously relaxing your body and observing it. Through the nose, about 9 counts. I'll invite you to empty the breath slowly and hold the breath out. And that's 1 cycle. So let's try 3 cycles of Durga Pranayama together and 3 cycles on your own before letting go of controlling the breath. Then observe the effects of it. So prepare to start by emptying this breath into the lowest section of your torso. Inhale 1/3. Pause. Into the middle, inhale 1/3. Pause. Into the top, inhale 1/3. Hold your breath, relax and observe. Through your nose, about 9 counts, exhale. Hold the breath out, relax and observe. Second cycle, inhale lowest section. Pause. Inhale middle section. Pause. Inhale top section. Hold it in, observe, relax. Through your nose, empty it about 9 counts. Hold it out, pause, observe. Third cycle, inhale lowest section. Pause, inhale middle. Pause, inhale top. Hold it in. Exhale slowly. Hold it out. On your own, I invite you to try 3 more cycles. And when you decide, consciously let go of controlling your breathing and observe anything you feel. Letting yourself rest into effortlessness and presence in Savasana.